Hello everyone, I'm Carthu, and welcome back to the dojo. Today, I wanted to discuss some new Dragon Ball lore. That's right, not plot, not theories, lore. Straight up. It's exactly the story as Akira Toriyama intends it to be from the past. So lore usually is the history of a fictional world. And in this case, we are getting lore of the Dragon Ball multiverse. In this case, though, it seems to be restricted to Universe 7. And possibly 6, if Saiyans work the same way. So what's all this about? Well, Toriyama did an interview where he describes in greater detail how the Super Saiyan forms occur. So I'm going to read this out for you directly, as translated by Herms. For those of you who don't know, Herms is a massive personality in this community. He is one of the key translators for anything spoiler related or Dragon Ball related in general. If you haven't followed him yet, I highly recommend you do, at Herms98 on Twitter. Also, while you're there, give me a follow, at carthusdojo. But let's get into this. Becoming a Super Saiyan depends on the S cells in one's body. All Saiyans have some, but most don't have many. The reason why Goku and Vegeta's kids can go Super Saiyan so easily is probably because they inherited their parents' S cell. Being raised in Earth's gentle environment might also be a factor. So let's discuss this first half before we move on to the second half. This half has to do with regular Super Saiyan. So regular Super Saiyan is now basically a midi-chlorian thing, if you guys watch Star Wars, where you have it in your body potentially to be able to become Super Saiyan. He says that most don't have many, but all Saiyans have some. This means that it's probably easier for those with many S cells to become Super Saiyan as opposed to those with few S cells. In my opinion, this is him trying to say someone like Caulifla, and maybe even Kaba to an extent, have an abundance of S cells. Gohan has an abundance of S cells. Trunks and Goten probably have some of the highest level of S cells because they inherited them. And, the way the Universe 6 Saiyans evolved would probably allow them to have more S cells in their body. It's actually a very interesting way to get around it. It also goes along with the prophecy of the Super Saiyan if we go to the next part, which talks about Super Saiyan God a bit more as well. But before we get there, I do want to say that this is an interesting development because it will make it easier for us as a community to hear it directly from Toriyama that Super Saiyan is something that's scientific. I don't want it to take away from the mysticism behind it, but we have to remember that Dragon Ball as a whole is sci-fi and mystical, right? From the minute it started, too, you got Bulma with her big capsule car and capsule bike coming up and meeting this little country bumpkin monkey boy who is living in basically like a Chinese folktale. But she's from like this futuristic city. So its roots sort of hold true to itself, and giving it a name like S cells also allows us, again, to accept it when someone turns into something a bit more easy than someone else. But since Ultra Instinct, which is the newest form, isn't a Super Saiyan form, the S cells seem to be not involved. And I'd also say that they're probably less involved in Super Saiyan God and in Super Saiyan Blue, because those are God forms requiring God Ki, and in Super Saiyan God's case, it requires a ritual for at least the normal way to achieve that form. But speaking of Super Saiyan God, let's get into the next part of the interview. Long ago, a righteous-hearted Saiyan named Yamoshi fought against the other Saiyans with 5 comrades. He was cornered and became a Super Saiyan, but was eventually defeated by overwhelming odds. Afterwards, his soul wandered in search of 6 righteous-hearted Saiyans, hence Super Saiyan God. Beerus sensed Yamoshi's spirit in his prophetic dream, and long ago a Namekian elder likewise empathized with his spirit and so wrote about him in the Namekian Book of Legend, which is how Shenron knew about Super Saiyan God. A few things to pull apart here that kind of contradicts what we know about spirits and afterlife in Dragon Ball, but a bit on that in a second. First, we know who the first Super Saiyan is. No, it's not Bardock. yes, it's Yamoshi. Alright, so this proves that Bardock wasn't the first Super Saiyan, making that special officially non-canon. Not as if there was any doubt about that to begin with, though. We also have the fact that he was with 5 comrades at the time, thus looking for the 6 righteous-hearted Saiyans for the Super Saiyan God ritual. Very interesting that they say his spirit sort of floats around for this. You know, in search of these Saiyans, he literally wanders the universe as a spirit. I don't know if I quite understand it. It's sort of something, you know, like, it's a one-time thing. He was the first Super Saiyan, and thus he has, like, this special privilege to be, you know, the ultimate warrior spirit that searches the universe. I don't know if we should take that as it's his literal spirit, and he's not in the afterlife, or if we should take it as this is his, like, will. Basically, his power and his will are transcending the afterlife in search of a new host. That could be possible as well. It's very hard to take the way it is. It's very nice that they were able to tie it into how Shenron knew about it and how the Namekians knew about it. So that sort of works, but it then sort of makes it weird because, like, did Namekians know about Saiyans in the Namek arc? I don't know if they said outright, we don't know who Saiyans are, but they never said outright, we do know who you are, we have a whole prophecy about you. It's a toss-up. I do like that this confirms that Beerus's prophecy of the Super Saiyan God was actually not someone we already knew. It wasn't like he was looking at a vision of Goku or a vision of Vegeta or a vision of any Saiyan that we knew as of now. It's this Yamoshi guy who is the first Super Saiyan and who creates the Super Saiyan God via the ritual. Very, very interesting. I'm sure we'll never hear about this in the show. Maybe we'll touch on it in the manga. But all this juicy lore, guys, this is actually really interesting. It's some backstory to how this world works, and it actually ties knots together, where, you know, Namekians and Saiyans have history through this Yamoshi spirit. Beerus has connections to Yamoshi's spirit, and thus connections to the Namekians. It's like this intertwining web, and it's very, very nice to see that Toriyama is interested in expanding his own lore. I mean, he doesn't have to think about this stuff. He doesn't have to name the first Super Saiyan. He doesn't have to figure out a reason why Trunks and Goten turn Super Saiyan easier than everyone else. He doesn't have to make up these special sort of cells that allow Super Saiyans to occur in the first place. He can just sort of leave it be, but he chose to come back to this series, and he's doing a fantastic job of expanding it. I really have to give him so much credit for it, because the guy's already a millionaire. He's been a millionaire for years and years and years, over 30 years of being a millionaire, more than that, actually. And he has no reason to expand this universe more than just to get the extra pennies in his pocket. But he's taking the time to expand it in a thorough way, I'd say. And whether you like S-cells or not, it does help explain the tingly back thing a little bit more. That's probably where S-cells are located, let's say. And we got all this stuff. It's so interesting. I don't see it playing an effect on the future too much, other than them maybe bringing it up in the show to try and explain how certain characters become Super Saiyan so easily. But other than that, I think this is a very, very cool thing to see, mainly because it shows that Toriyama has been thinking about the lore of the universe, and it might lead to more. And the more we get, the better. I want to know more about these gods. I want to know how they get appointed. I want to know who's the highest of the high, the lowest of the low, what's everything in between. I love lore. I come from a background of loving fantasy lore and reading fantasy books, so this is right up my alley. If there was like a Dragon Ball novel to read, I would read it in a heartbeat, because I find them very interesting, as opposed to manga and anime where you're sort of constricted by the time constraint. A 1,000-page novel can just happen, and it takes up shelf space, but it's like, you know, fits in your hand, basically. Hey guys, as you probably could tell, the video was actually just about to end when I went back to Twitter and Herms actually translated the full scope of everything that was said, as opposed to just saying the highlights of what was said in those Toriyama panels. For those who don't know, this is a Q&A, so there were questions asked, and Toriyama gave answers. I'm not going to read through these to, you know, just add time onto the video. The video is long enough as it is, and most of these things don't change anything. The first thing that is added onto this is that you can increase the number of S cells in your body if you are a gentle spirit, if you have a gentle spirit. So figure Gohan, Goten, Goku, Kaba all have gentle spirits, really. So for them, increasing their quantity of S cells is not unlikely. It's actually very likely that they could do that. However, this is not the only thing required to become a Super Saiyan. It also requires a certain level of power, which actually means that even if Goten and Trunks had, that means even if Goten and Trunks inherited these S cells from Vegeta and Goku, it still wouldn't explain the fact that they turned Super Saiyan just by itself. They would need a certain level of battle power, which would mean that Goten and Trunks should be in the Frieza level of power. I know they're 8-year-olds, but they're within the Frieza level of power. Maybe it's not as high of a battle power required if you have more S cells. Maybe it's like a ratio you need to hit. But whatever it is, it's easier for them because they inherited a lot of S cells apparently. So let's assume their battle power is lower. Still should be in the Namek Saga range, and actually later on, especially after their training, fusion, everything, we know they're around Frieza level. I wouldn't take this too far. I don't think you need to think about it too much. Just know Super Saiyan comes from S cells and battle power. The next one was the Super Saiyan God, and looking over this, it says that, first off, the legendary Super Saiyan and the Super Saiyan God are the same person. In essence, it's that his spirit was looking to make a savior. Yamoshi's spirit was looking to make a savior for the Saiyans, who would be the Super Saiyan God. That's what his spirit wants, and if his spirit is that sentient, to that point, it's not just a will that's inheriting or a power that's transcending. I would say that that is actually his spirit, and he sort of escaped the traditional afterlife somehow. It's very, very interesting to see that the original Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan God are being mixed in this way, as opposed to the way we have been assuming it was, where the original Super Saiyan is retconned to be the Super Saiyan God. No, the first Super Saiyan God ever is Goku. But the person that Beerus saw when the planet is destroyed, that I have on screen right now, is Yamoshi. So that's the big thing. It's basically, Yamoshi's spirit is what's basically informing everyone of Super Saiyan God, informed the Namekians, informed Beerus, and that, as I already explained, helps tie everything together very nicely. This is very, very good overall. Also, just to be known, he was outnumbered as a Super Saiyan, Yamoshi, and he got defeated by getting fatigued. So I'm assuming he got to the point that he was so outnumbered or fighting so many people that he just ran out of power, and that's why he lost, because he probably de-transformed. Doesn't say that explicitly, but it's very possible. We also have this other little snippet that says how the Saiyan hierarchy works. It's exactly how we thought it was. Battle power is measured at birth. If they reach a certain number, they are instantly upper-level warriors, and they are combatants already. So people like Raditz, Nappa, Vegeta were all upper-level warriors. Someone like Goku, though, was infiltrator level, meaning he was born with a low power level. He gets sent to the planet to infiltrate the planet. If he succeeds in conquering the planet, when he comes back, he is promoted to upper level. So if Goku had, say, conquered the planet, Raditz came, found him, and was like, oh, you did a good job, you conquered the planet, great job, you're ranked up, you are on equal footing with the rest of us, even though he would still most likely be weaker than the rest of them. So that's just a little tidbit. I don't think that's any new information, and just so you guys know, we will be getting more of these. There's many more questions. The questions that I just told you about were questions 3, 5, and 9. Those are 3 of at least 9 questions. There may be more. I don't know exactly how many questions there are. I haven't found a concise answer on it. Assume 9, which means we have 6 more questions to look forward to, but it does seem like the Super Saiyan transformation with the S cells and the Super Saiyan God legacy with Yamoshi's spirit are the 2 most important things, since those are the things getting spread around the quickest. Alright, now back to the original recording of this video. Anyway, guys, I don't want to ramble on too long about this. I wanted this to be a quick little video I threw together for you, because this is super interesting information and it needs to get out there. Remember, follow Herms on Twitter at Herms98, and while you're there, follow me on Twitter at carthusdojo. Both of those links will be in the description if you just want a quick click, and I hope we get more of this lore. But what do you guys think? Leave your opinions and counterpoints in the comments down below, and subscribe if you want more Dragon Ball videos. But for now, video outro!